The massive Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Jackson Porter strode confidently toward the central podium. 300 alien representatives from across the galaxy stared down at the lone human from elevated seats arranged in perfect concentric circles. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a massive dome with walls of transparent crystal that revealed the glittering stars and nebulae beyond, reminding everyone present of what was at stake. The 7 High Counselors, each representing the major galactic powers, sat on obsidian thrones at the highest point of the chamber. Porter, dressed in the formal blue and gold uniform of Earth's United Defense Force, showed no sign of intimidation, despite being the first human ever to address the full council. His silver hair and weathered face spoke of decades of military service, but it was his eyes, calm and calculating, that unnerved many of the alien delegates. "You stand accused of violating Non-Expansion Treaty 72B. Human," announced First Counselor Xylos, a luminescent being whose 8 tentacle-like appendages gently undulated as he spoke. His voice reverberated through the chamber with artificial amplification. "Your species has established colonies beyond your permitted boundary systems." Porter smiled, unexpectedly calm. "Interesting accusation, considering we documented each expansion with your regulatory body." "Documentation your people falsified," hissed Third Counselor Marath, a reptilian being whose scales shifted color with his emotions, currently a deep red of anger. Porter tapped his wrist device. Holographic displays materialized before each council member, showing evidence of tampered records, not by humans, but by someone within the council itself. The timestamps and digital signatures were highlighted in red, showing modifications made long after the original submissions. "I'm not here to defend humanity against false charges," Porter announced, his voice carrying an edge that silenced the chamber. "I'm here to inform the Galactic Council that as of 800 hours Earth Standard Time, humanity formally declares war." Gasps and shouts erupted. Counselor Xylos rose, tentacles flaring with bioluminescent anger. "You declare war on the entire Galactic Alliance? Your species controls barely 40 systems. This is madness." "No," Porter replied, his smile vanishing. "We declare war specifically on the Chronexian Empire and their puppets. Within this council who orchestrated the massacre at New Eden Colony." The chamber erupted in chaos, as hidden cameras from Earth intelligence captured the guilty reactions of several council members. Porter had not come to face judgment, he had come to deliver it. The accusations hung in the air as the council's security forces, towering mechanical units with multiple weapon systems, moved closer to Porter. He showed no concern, standing firm at the podium. "What you call a natural disaster on New Eden was a deliberate attack," Porter continued, when the noise finally subsided. 15,000 human colonists, including 3,000 children, died when Chronexian stealth ships bombarded the planet with engineered asteroids. He gestured, and new images appeared. Orbital trajectory analysis, fragment composition studies, and most damning of all, recovered ship debris with Chronexian military markings. "This is fabricated evidence," growled the 5th Counselor, a massive being with thick gray fur and tusks who represented the Chronexian Empire. "Humans are notorious for their deception." A new figure entered the chamber floor. A slender human woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of a scientist rather than a soldier. "Dr. Eliza Reeves, Chief Xenobiologist for the New Eden Recovery Team." Porter introduced her. "Doctor, please explain what you found." Reeves stepped forward, her voice steady despite the hundreds of alien eyes fixed upon her. The impact patterns were consistent with guided entry, not random collision. More importantly, we found biological agents in the impact zones, specifically designed to attack human DNA while leaving the planet's ecosystem intact. The evidence continued to mount as Reeves presented her findings. Several council members from neutral systems began to shift uncomfortably, looking toward their Chronexian counterparts with new suspicion. First Counselor Xylos raised all 8 appendages, demanding silence. "These are serious accusations that require investigation. We cannot act on—" "We're not asking for your action," Porter interrupted, causing another wave of shocked murmurs. No one interrupted the First Counselor. "Earth has already voted. The declaration of war is not up for debate. We are here merely to inform you, as required by Galactic Protocol 14-C." The council chamber doors opened again, A delegation of 20 more humans entered, diplomats, military officers, and intelligence officials. They carried data drives and documents which they began distributing to representatives from neutral systems. "This is the evidence package," explained Porter. "We're providing it to all non-involved parties as a matter of record. The Chronexian Empire has 7 standard days to withdraw from human space and offer reparations before military action commences." The 5th counselor stood to his full height, nearly 3 meters tall, and slammed a massive fist onto his console. "This is outrageous. The Chronexian Empire controls over 500 systems. We have battle fleets that could turn your homeworld to ash before your pathetic ships could even mobilize." Porter's expression remained unchanged. "Perhaps, but I don't think you'll find us as defenseless as you expect." The human delegation began to withdraw from the chamber in perfect formation. No one tried to stop them. The council was too stunned by the unprecedented situation. As Porter reached the massive doorway, First Counselor Xylos called out, "Admiral Porter, the Galactic Council has not ruled on this matter. Leaving now is a breach of protocol." Porter turned, his face illuminated by the starlight streaming through the crystal walls. "With respect, First Counselor, Earth no longer recognizes the authority of a council that harbors those who would commit genocide against us." "Good day." The journey back to the human diplomatic vessel was tense. The council station, a massive artificial structure floating at the junction of 7 major hyperspace lanes, housed over 2 million beings from across the galaxy. Not all were friendly to humans. "Three Tails Port Corridor," muttered Commander James Blake, Porter's security chief, as they walked through the diplomatic sector. "Chronexian intelligence, most likely." Porter nodded slightly. "Expected. Keep moving. The Vanguard is standing by." Dr. Reeves walked beside Porter, clutching her data tablet tightly. "Admiral, the biological evidence I presented, there's more. The agent wasn't just designed to kill humans. It was collecting genetic samples. The Chronexians are building something." "A targeted bioweapon?" Porter asked quietly. "Worse, I think they're trying to find a way to control us. Something about human cognitive patterns frightens them." Their conversation was interrupted as they turned a corner and found their path blocked by a group of heavily armed Chronexian security forces. "Diplomatic detention," announced their leader, a scarred veteran with cybernetic enhancements visible along his jaw. "By order of the 5th counselor." Blake's hand moved to his sidearm, but Porter stopped him with a subtle gesture. "Diplomatic immunity still applies for the next 6 hours," Porter said calmly. "Or is the Chronexian Empire also disregarding council protocols now?" A tense standoff ensued until a new voice spoke from behind the Chronexian forces. "He is correct about protocol," said a tall, willowy being with pale blue skin and 4 arms. "Ambassador Theros of the Illidari Confederation, one of the galaxy's older and more respected neutral powers. Let them pass, or I will be forced to report a violation to the full council." The Chronexian commander hesitated, then reluctantly ordered his troops to stand aside. As the human delegation continued toward their docking bay, Theros fell in step beside Porter. "A bold move, Admiral. But I wonder if your species truly understands what you've initiated." "We understand that remaining passive means extinction," Porter replied. "There are older powers watching these events with great interest," Theros said cryptically. "Ancient prophecies speak of the adaptable ones who would either save the galaxy or consume it." Porter's eyes narrowed. "We're not interested in galactic domination, Ambassador. Just survival." "Yet you named your ship the Vanguard," Theros noted with a knowing smile. "Curious choice for a species claiming purely defensive motives." Before Porter could respond, Blake's communicator chimed. His face paled as he read the message. "Admiral, we have a situation. Earth Defense Command reports unusual activity at our border outposts. Multiple signatures matching Chronexian battle cruisers have dropped out of hyperspace in the Arcturus system." Porter's expression hardened. "It seems the Chronexians don't intend to wait 7 days. He turned to Theros. "You might want to distance yourself from us, Ambassador. Things are about to become complicated." "On the contrary," Theros replied, all 4 hands making a complex gesture that signified formal diplomatic recognition. "The Illudari wish to observe. There has been disquiet about Chronexian expansion for some time." As they reached the docking bay where the Vanguard waited, Porter received another message, this one on a secure channel directly from Earth. Operation Prometheus is authorized, said the voice of the Earth President. May God help us all. Porter took one last look at the magnificent Council Station B. The massive view screen on Earth Defense Command's central control room showed dozens of Chronexian warships emerging from hyperspace around the Arcturus colony. General Maria Vega watched with narrowed eyes as the enemy vessels moved into attack formation. The room hummed with tense activity as defense coordinators prepared for what appeared to be humanity's first major space battle against a superior force. They've launched fighters, reported Colonel Thomas Reed, his fingers dancing over holographic controls. Estimate 2,000 attack craft in the first wave. Planetary defenses at Arcturus Prime are activating. Vega, a compact woman with short gray hair and piercing eyes, nodded calmly. Status of Operation Mirror? All systems nominal, Reed replied with a small smile. The Chronexians are seeing exactly what we want them to see. On the screen, the Chronexian fleet unleashed a devastating barrage of energy, weapons and guided missiles at the orbital defense platforms protecting Arcturus Prime. The platforms, massive structures bristling with weapon systems, returned fire briefly before exploding in spectacular fashion. Defense. Platforms 1 through 12 destroyed, a young lieutenant announced, her voice steady despite the apparent catastrophe unfolding. Arcturus Orbital Command reports complete loss of defensive capabilities. Vega didn't react to the news. Instead, she activated a secure communication channel. This is General Vega. Authorization Prometheus Echo Tango, execute Phase 2. The Chronexian Fleet Commander, Admiral Drax, stood triumphant on his flagship's bridge. His scaled skin gleamed with satisfaction as he watched the human defenses crumble before his superior forces. Pathetic, he growled to his second-in-command. These humans declared war on the Chronexian Empire with this level of preparation? Their arrogance is matched only by their stupidity. Sir, reported his sensor officer, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface, multiple signatures not matching any known human weapon systems. Drax leaned forward, suddenly alert. Show me. The tactical display zoomed in on the planet's surface, revealing dozens of previously hidden installations powering up. What had appeared to be civilian structures, farming complexes, mining operations, research stations were transforming. Massive sections of the planet's surface slid aside, revealing launch bays and weapon emplacements that had been completely invisible to Chronexian scans. What trickery is this? Drax demanded as new signatures appeared on his sensors. From concealed bases across Arcturus Prime, hundreds of sleek vessels emerged. Unlike any human ships the Chronexians had encountered before, they moved with impossible speed and coordination, forming complex tactical patterns that seemed to shift and adapt in real time. Sir, new contacts emerging from Arcturus's moons as well, reported the increasingly panicked sensor officer. The humans, they have hidden fleets. Back on Earth, General Vega watched with grim satisfaction as the true extent of humanity's military capability was finally revealed. For decades, Earth had presented a carefully crafted image to the galactic community, showing only outdated defense platforms and relatively primitive starships, all while developing an entirely separate, hidden military infrastructure. The quantum probability drives are performing exactly as expected, reported Dr. Alan Morris, chief scientist of the Prometheus project who had just entered the command center. A tall man with dark skin and intense eyes, Morris had spearheaded humanity's most advanced weapons development for the past 15 years. The Chronexians can't lock onto our ships because they technically exist in multiple positions simultaneously. Vega nodded. And the cognitive warfare systems? Online and learning, Morris confirmed. Every attack pattern the Chronexians use is being analyzed and countered in real time. The longer the battle continues, the more effective our responses become. On the view screen, the Chronexian fleet's initial confidence was rapidly dissolving into chaos. Their formations broke apart as human vessels seemed to predict their every move, countering tactics before they were even fully deployed. What had begun as a simple strike against a supposedly weak enemy was turning into a nightmare. We're receiving distress signals from Chronexian vessels, Reed announced. Their command structure is breaking down. The battle continued to unfold, but the outcome was becoming increasingly clear. The Chronexian forces, despite their superior numbers and firepower, couldn't effectively engage an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Incoming transmission from Admiral Porter on the Vanguard. a communications officer called out. They've escaped the council station and are en route to Earth. ETA 18 hours. As if the situation couldn't get any more complex, new alarms sounded throughout the command center. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected, shouted Colonel Reed. Non-Chronexian vessels entering the Arcturus system. General Vega tensed, but her expression remained composed. Identification? Sir, they're illusory vessels, and ships from the Mindari Republic and 5 other neutral systems. Reed looked up in surprise. They're broadcasting observation status, not hostile intent. The diplomatic ramifications were immediately clear to everyone in the command center. Word of the conflict had spread faster than expected, and neutral powers were arriving to witness the outcome firsthand. It seems we have an audience, Vega noted dryly. Let's make sure they see exactly what we want them to see. Activate Phase 3. On her command, a new type of human vessel moved into position, larger than the others with a distinctive configuration that suggested tremendous power. The neutral observers watched as the ship oriented toward a badly damaged Chronexian cruiser, attempting to retreat. Instead of firing conventional weapons, the human vessel emitted a controlled pulse of energy that completely engulfed the Chronexian ship. When the light faded, the enemy vessel remained intact, but completely powerless, drifting helplessly in space. The nullifier worked perfectly, Morris remarked, unable to hide his satisfaction. Complete systems shut down without structural damage. Just as designed. Vega nodded, understanding the message this would send to the watching powers. Humanity wasn't just fighting to destroy. They were fighting with unexpected restraint and technological sophistication. In another part of the galaxy, the news of the battle's outcome reached the Galactic Council chambers, causing an uproar that threatened to tear apart centuries of political alliances. The humans have deceived us all, roared the 5th Counselor, the Chronexian representative. They have been building military forces in secret, violating countless treaties. First Counselor Xylos raised his tentacles for silence, but the chamber remained in turmoil. Representatives from dozens of systems were demanding information, clarification, or making accusations of their own. What treaties specifically? Asked Ambassador Theros of the Illudari, who had returned to the council after witnessing the initial stages of the battle. The humans have never signed any agreement limiting their defensive capabilities. They only agreed not to expand beyond certain systems. A technicality, the Chronexian counselor sputtered. Perhaps, Theros replied calmly, but one that raises an important question. Why were the Chronexians so concerned about human military development that they engineered false charges and launched a preemptive attack? The question hung in the air, causing uncomfortable shifts among several council members who had supported the Chronexian position. I have received updated information from our observation fleet, Theros continued. The humans have demonstrated technology unlike anything recorded in council archives. Specifically, weapons that adapt to enemy tactics in real time, and ships that appear to manipulate quantum probability. The chamber fell silent at this revelation. Even the oldest spacefaring races represented in the council had not achieved such capabilities. Impossible, whispered the 7th Counselor, a being composed of crystalline structures who represented one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. Such technology would require a fundamental understanding of reality that no young species could possess. Back on Earth, Admiral Porter had finally returned from the council station and joined General Vega in the command center. The battle at Arcturus had concluded, a decisive victory for humanity that had cost the Chronexians nearly half their attack fleet. The neutral observers have withdrawn to safe distances but remain in system, Reed reported. They're continuing to monitor the situation. Porter nodded grimly. Good, let them watch. Let them report back to their governments exactly what happens when someone attacks a human colony. Admiral, Vega said quietly, there's something else you should know. During the battle, we detected unusual scanning patterns from several of the neutral vessels. They weren't just observing, they were actively analyzing our technology. Porter frowned. Expected, but concerning. How much do you think they were able to determine? Dr. Morris, who had been quietly working at a terminal nearby, looked up. Not much about the cognitive warfare systems, those are too complex for remote analysis. But the quantum drives, they might have gathered. The map highlighted several stereo. Commander Diana Walsh crouched behind the twisted remains of what had once been a Chronexian transport ship. Plasma fire sizzled overhead as enemy troops attempted to pin down her Special Forces team. The battlefield, a once thriving mining colony on Helios 4, was now scarred with craters and burning wreckage. Through her tactical visor, Walsh could see the positions of her 5 team members, all carefully concealed among the ruins. Status report, she subvocalized, the command picked up by the neural interface embedded at the base of her skull. Enemy count 40+, responded Lieutenant Marcus Reiner, her second-in-command, who was positioned 200 meters to her left. They've set up heavy weapons at the main processing facility. Standard Chronexian combat doctrine, they're not adapting. Walsh smiled grimly. That was exactly what she had been counting on. Prometheus units online? She asked. Green across the board, confirmed Specialist Tanya Ivanova, the team's tech expert. Neural nets primed and learning. Walsh took a deep breath. Execute Swarm Protocol Alpha. Now. From concealed positions around the battlefield, dozens of small devices activated simultaneously. Each no larger than a human palm, they rose into the air on silent propulsion systems and began to spread out. The Chronexian troops immediately opened fire on the devices, but the small drones moved with uncanny precision, evading attacks as if they could predict exactly where the enemy would shoot. They're adapting to Chronexian targeting algorithms, Ivanova reported with professional satisfaction. Learning rate at 200% of projected parameters. The swarm of drones began to coordinate, forming complex patterns that seemed to confuse the Chronexian targeting systems. Some drones emitted specialized electronic countermeasures while others gathered tactical data. None were armed. They didn't need to be. Team, prepare to move on my mark, Walsh ordered. Strike pattern Epsilon. Her 5 team members acknowledged the command, readying their advanced combat systems. Unlike regular military units, Walsh's team had been enhanced with experimental technology, neural interfaces that allowed instantaneous tactical coordination and bioaugmentations that pushed the limits of human capability. 3, 2, 1, execute! 6 humans moved with synchronized precision, exploiting gaps in the Chronexian defenses that had been identified by the drone swarm. Walsh vaulted over her cover and sprinted forward at a speed no unmodified human could match, her weapon tracking and eliminating 3 enemy soldiers before they could even register her presence. Across the battlefield, her team moved like ghosts, striking from impossible angles and disappearing before the Chronexians could respond effectively. It wasn't just superior technology or physical enhancements that made them lethal. It was their unprecedented tactical coordination. The neural network created by their linked interfaces allowed them to function almost as a single organism, each member intuitively understanding their role in the evolving battle. The Chronexians, despite their greater numbers and firepower, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Their rigid military doctrine, honed over centuries of galactic dominance, proved useless against an enemy that adapted in real time. Within minutes, the remaining Chronexian forces retreated to their final defensive position inside the mining facility's central control room. Commander, Reiner called out, we've secured the perimeter, but we've got a problem. He gestured toward a heavily armored door. They've sealed themselves in with the human hostages. Walsh approached the door, studying it through her tactical visor. Ivanova, can you get us in? The tech specialist was already working, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. Negative. They've disabled the electronic systems. It's manually locked from the inside. Walsh considered their options. A direct assault would endanger the hostages, scientists who had been working at the facility when the Chronexians attacked. According to intelligence, these researchers possessed crucial information about ancient artifacts discovered in the planet's deeper mines. New plan, Walsh decided. Deployment authorized for Echo 7. Her team exchanged glances. Echo 7 was their newest technology, still classified at the highest levels. From a secure compartment in her combat suit, Walsh removed what appeared to be a small silver sphere. Ivanova, configure for non-lethal infiltration. Reiner, prepare for breaching once we have control. Ivanova linked her systems to the sphere, which began to pulse with soft blue light. Echo 7 configured, awaiting deployment. Walsh placed the sphere against the door where it seemed to melt, transforming into a liquid-like substance that seeped through the microscopic gaps in the sealed doorway. Inside the control room, the Chronexian commander barked orders at his remaining troops, who had positioned themselves around the human hostages. "If they breach this door, execute the prisoners," he commanded, his scaled skin flushed dark with stress and rage. One of his soldiers noticed a strange silvery substance forming on the floor. Before he could report it, the material expanded rapidly, forming into dozens of smaller spheres that began to emit a colorless, odorless gas. Within seconds, the Chronexian troops began to collapse, overcome by a compound specifically designed to affect their unique biology, while leaving humans unharmed. Outside, Walsh's visor displayed a schematic of the room, showing the positions of unconscious Chronexians and unharmed human hostages. "Breach now," she ordered. The door exploded inward, and Walsh's team swept into the room with practiced efficiency, securing the unconscious enemies and checking on the hostages. "Facility secure," Reiner reported. "All hostages alive and unharmed." Walsh approached a middle-aged man who appeared to be the lead researcher. "Dr. Bennett? I'm Commander Walsh, Earth Special Operations. We're here to extract you and your team." Bennett looked shaken but relieved. "Thank God you came. They were after our research, the artifacts we found in the deep mines." "What artifacts?" Walsh asked, suddenly alert. Bennett hesitated, then reached into his pocket and produced a small container. Opening it revealed what looked like a fragment of crystalline material that glowed with an inner light. "We found a chamber, 3 kilometers below the surface," he explained, "predating any known civilization. The technology is beyond anything we've seen. But the most remarkable thing is how it reacts to human presence." "Reacts how?" Walsh asked, her interest piqued. "It activates," Bennett said simply. "For other species, nothing. We had Mendari and Illudari colleagues try. But when a human approaches..." He trailed off, gesturing at the glowing fragment. Walsh's neural interface automatically recorded and transmitted this information to Earth Command. This could be connected to Admiral Porter's discovery about unusual energy signatures near the galactic core. "We need to evacuate immediately," Walsh decided. "Gather all your research data. My team will escort you to our ship." As her team prepared for extraction, Walsh received an encrypted transmission from Earth Command. The holographic image of Admiral Porter appeared before her. "Commander, mission status? Facility secure, hostages recovered," Walsh reported. "Sir, they've discovered artifacts that respond only to human presence, possibly connected to the galactic core readings." Porter nodded grimly. "That confirms our suspicions. The situation is escalating. The Chronexians have deployed their bioweapons division to the Proxima system." Walsh tensed. "The colony there has over 2 million civilians." "Exactly. Your new orders are to proceed directly to Proxima after extraction. A Vanguard-class vessel will rendezvous with you at these coordinates." Porter transmitted the details directly to Walsh's neural interface. "Commander, we've authorized deployment of Phase 2 enhancements for your team." Walsh's eyes widened slightly. Phase 2 was still experimental, pushing human capability even further through controlled genetic activation. "Understood, Admiral. We'll be ready." As Walsh's team escorted the researchers to their waiting ship, news of the successful operation spread throughout human space. It was just one of dozens of similar victories being reported across multiple fronts. The pattern was becoming clear. Despite the Chronexians' superior numbers and resources, humanity's adaptive strategies and unexpected technologies were turning the tide. In the Galactic Council chambers, the political situation continued to deteriorate. Representatives from systems aligned with the Chronexian Empire demanded intervention, while others argued for neutrality. The most troubling development was the formation of a coalition of older species, who viewed the conflict with growing alarm. "The humans are demonstrating capabilities that violate the natural order," insisted the representative of the ancient Zolari conclave, a species that had achieved spaceflight when humans were still living in caves. "Their cognitive adaptation rate exceeds all evolutionary models. They are an aberration." Ambassador Theros of the Illudari rose to speak, his forearms making a gesture of formal disagreement. "With respect, what the humans demonstrate is not unnatural, merely unexpected. Perhaps our models have been limited by our own biases." "You speak of bias," countered the Zolari representative, "yet fail to acknowledge the obvious truth. Humans are developing faster than any species in recorded history. Their technology now challenges races that have existed for millennia. Does this not concern you? Professor Marcus Alvarez stood before the massive chamber door, his heart pounding in his chest. The walls around him were covered in symbols unlike any language currently known in the galaxy, yet somehow familiar to him. The research facility on Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, had been established in secret years before humanity revealed its true technological capabilities to the galaxy. Now it housed the most important archaeological find in human history. The material composition is unlike anything in our database, reported Dr. Eliza Reeves, who had joined Alvarez's team after her work on the New Eden massacre. It appears to be some form of programmable matter, responding to both physical interaction and thought patterns. Behind them, Admiral Porter watched silently, his weathered face revealing nothing of his thoughts. After the Battle of Mars, a costly victory for humanity that had destroyed nearly half the Chronexian attack fleet, he had personally escorted Alvarez and Reeves to this hidden facility. And, "You're certain about the translation?" Porter finally asked, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Alvarez nodded, running his fingers over the intricate patterns etched into the alien door. "As certain as I can be with a language dead for at least 50,000 years. The message repeats consistently across ruins found on 7 different worlds. The sleepers must remain undisturbed until the children of Earth are ready to accept their inheritance." "Children of Earth," Porter repeated thoughtfully. "Not humans specifically." "That's the most interesting part," Alvarez confirmed, excitement evident in his voice despite the gravity of the situation. "These ruins predate human civilization by tens of thousands of years, yet they specifically reference Earth." Reeves stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her usual reserve. The artifacts from Helios 4 showed similar properties, responding only to human presence. And now this facility on Europa, hidden beneath the ice for who knows how long. 54,000 years according to our dating methods, Alvarez supplied. "The implications are profound," Reeves continued. "It suggests humanity isn't just another evolutionary branch, but something designed." Porter's expression darkened. "You're suggesting some form of intervention in human development? By whom?" Before either scientist could respond, the symbols on the massive door began to glow with an inner light. The effect spread outward from where Alvarez had touched the surface, creating intricate patterns that pulsed with increasing brightness. "It's activating," Alvarez whispered, stepping back in alarm. "I didn't do anything to." The door began to slide open, revealing a chamber beyond filled with technology that defied comprehension. Structures that seemed to exist partially in another dimension. Energy fields that curved space itself, and at the center, a single pedestal holding what appeared to be a crystalline sphere. "Admiral," came an urgent voice over Porter's secure communicator. "We're detecting energy spikes throughout the facility. Systems we didn't even know existed are activating." Porter tensed, his military instincts on high alert. "Security teams, stand by. Dr. Reeves, Professor Alvarez, do not approach any further until we understand what we're dealing with." But Alvarez seemed almost in a trance, drawn toward the pedestal as if pulled by an invisible force. "I can hear it," he murmured. "It's calling to us." In that moment, the sphere on the pedestal pulsed with blinding light. When the humans could see again, a holographic figure stood before them, humanoid in basic shape, but clearly not human. Its form shifted constantly, as if struggling to maintain a stable appearance in our reality. "The awakening sequence has initiated," it spoke, its voice translating directly into their minds rather than traveling through air. "Genetic markers confirmed. Dormant potential detected. Status: premature activation due to external threat assessment." Porter stepped forward, placing himself between the hologram and the scientists. "Identify yourself and your purpose." The entity regarded Porter with what might have been curiosity. "This interface exists to facilitate transition. You would name us the predecessors, though this is imprecise. We are what you will become." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the war continued to escalate. The Battle of Mars had weakened the Chronexian military, but their desperation only made them more dangerous. Reports flooded into Earth Command of new weapons being deployed, technology that the Chronexian Empire had apparently kept hidden for centuries. In the command center on Earth, General Vega monitored the developing situation, with growing concern. The Chronexian Emperor has personally taken command of their remaining forces, reported Colonel Reed. Intelligence suggests they're preparing to deploy something called the Void Catalyst, a weapon of last resort that their own scientists have advised against using. Vega frowned. Do we have any information on its capabilities? Very little, Reed admitted. Only that it was developed based on technology discovered in ancient ruins near the Galactic core, the same region where Professor Alvarez's team made contact with the structure. The implications were troubling. If both humans and Chronexians had discovered technology from the same ancient civilization, the current conflict might be part of a much larger pattern. Status of Commander Walsh's team? Vega asked, changing the subject. They successfully deployed to the Proxima system and neutralized the bioweapon threat, Reed reported, bringing up tactical displays showing the operation. But Walsh reports unusual findings there as well, more artifacts activating in response to human presence. Vega was about to request more details when a priority transmission came through from Europa. Admiral Porter's face appeared on the main screen, his expression more troubled than Vega had ever seen. General, we have a situation here that changes everything, Porter began without preamble. Professor Alvarez has made contact with what appears to be an artificial intelligence left behind by an ancient civilization. The information it's providing is beyond anything we could have imagined. Explain, Vega demanded, sensing the weight of Porter's words. According to this entity, humans were once part of an advanced civilization that spanned the galaxy, but something happened, some kind of catastrophe or war. The survivors apparently made a decision to devolve themselves, to start over, embedding their genetic knowledge within a new, simpler form on Earth. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Are you saying humans are descended from an ancient advanced species that deliberately devolved itself? Vega asked incredulously. Not exactly descended, Porter clarified. The entity claims we are them, the same species, but with most of our capabilities deliberately suppressed through genetic tampering. A fail-safe mechanism designed to give us time to develop differently. And the Chronexians? The other species in the galaxy? Many evolved naturally. Some were engineered for specific purposes, but according to this entity, only humans carry the complete genetic template of the original civilization. Vega sat back, momentarily overwhelmed. If this is true, does it explain why Chronexians fear us? Do they somehow know this? Not consciously, Porter replied. But the entity suggests that certain species have an instinctive response to human cognitive patterns, recognizing something dangerous that they can't quite identify. Their conversation was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout Earth Command. New tactical displays showed massive energy signatures appearing near key human colonies. Chronexian fleet detected dropping out of hyperspace near Alpha Centauri, Reed announced urgently. Energy readings consistent with their Void Catalyst weapon charging. Vega immediately shifted to crisis response mode. All defensive systems to maximum. Evacuate civilian populations to shelter. Deploy all available cognitive warfare units. On Europa, Porter received the same alert. He turned back to the holographic entity, his expression hardening with urgency. You said we carry dormant potential from your civilization. Can it be accessed? Awakened? The entity's form rippled. The awakening was designed to be gradual, over generations. Forced activation carries significant risks to both individual and species integrity. We don't have generations, Porter countered. The Chronexians are deploying weapons that could destroy entire planets. Millions will die. The entity was silent for a long moment, its form shifting more rapidly as if processing this information. There exists a protocol, it finally admitted, designated Prometheus. Emergency awakening of dormant neural capabilities in select individuals. Warning, partial activation only. Full activation would cause catastrophic cognitive restructuring in unprepared subjects. Porter and Reeves exchanged a meaningful glance. Unknowingly, humans had named their most advanced enhancement program after the exact protocol the ancient civilization had embedded within their genetic code. We've already begun, Reeves explained to the entity. The Prometheus Protocol. Our scientists developed it independently, activating enhanced neural networking in specialized military units. The entity's form stabilized slightly, focusing its attention on Reeves. Impossible. The activation sequence requires precise genetic manipulation that your current technology cannot. It paused, studying her more intently. Unless. Parallel development. Fascinating. You have rediscovered the pathway through independent MEA. The massive Chronexian flagship Inevitable Dominance led the combined fleet of Council forces toward the Precursor Station, an ancient structure orbiting the supermassive black hole at the galactic core. Emperor Vox himself stood on the command deck, his scaled form encased in ceremonial battle armor that enhanced his already imposing height. Around him, representatives from 24 alien civilizations watched with a mixture of anticipation and dread as the fleet approached its destination. The Void Catalyst is at full charge, Emperor, reported the chief weapons officer. Ready to deploy on your command, Vox nodded, his yellow eyes narrowed with determination. And the human fleet? Still pursuing, but they will not arrive in time, answered his tactical commander. Their fastest vessels are still 3 hours behind us. The Emperor allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. After the disasters at Arcturus and Mars, many had questioned his leadership. But he had convinced the Galactic Council of the existential threat that humanity posed, not through their current capabilities, but through what they might become. The humans believe we seek to destroy them out of fear or hatred, Vox addressed the assembled representatives. They do not understand that we act to preserve the galaxy itself. The ancient texts are clear. If the dormant ones fully awaken, reality as we know it will end. On the view screen, the precursor station grew larger, a massive structure of impossible geometry that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. Built by a civilization that had vanished millions of years before any current species achieved sapience, it was said to contain technology capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. The Void Catalyst will interface with the station's core systems, explained a Zolari scientist, one of the few beings in the galaxy with any understanding of precursor technology. It will generate a cascading quantum field that will precisely target and neutralize the dormant genetic sequences in all human DNA across the galaxy. Without killing them? Asked a concerned representative from a younger species. Correct, the Zolari confirmed. They will survive, merely reverted to what they should be, an ordinary limited species. The potential threat they represent will be permanently eliminated. What none of them realized was that their communications were being monitored. On the human vessel Vanguard leading the pursuit fleet, Admiral Porter listened to the Chronexian Emperor's plans with grim determination. So that's their endgame, Porter said to the assembled command staff. Not genocide, but something perhaps more insidious, stripping us of our potential. Can they actually do that? Asked General Vega, present via secure holographic link from Earth Command. According to our intelligence on the Void Catalyst, yes, answered Dr. Reeves. It's designed to trigger a galaxy-wide quantum resonance that would specifically target the dormant sections of human DNA, rendering them permanently inert. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity would survive, but forever limited, never to achieve what they were truly meant to become. Status of the Prometheus volunteers? Porter asked, breaking the heavy silence. Commander Walsh, now serving as liaison to the enhanced human units, stepped forward. The first wave is fully operational, Admiral. 3,000 volunteers successfully integrated with the enhanced protocol. And the side effects? Porter pressed, knowing there had been costs. Walsh hesitated briefly. Significant neural restructuring. Some memory loss. Personality changes in approximately 20% of subjects. But all have stabilized and their capabilities exceed our most optimistic projections. On the tactical display, the Chronexian fleet had reached the outer perimeter of the precursor station. Their ships began taking up strategic positions, preparing to deploy the Void Catalyst. We don't have 3 hours, Porter decided, studying the situation. We need to implement Transcendence Protocol now. Vega's holographic image showed her concern. The entity warned that attempting this with partially awakened subjects carries extreme risks. If we don't try, we lose everything that makes us who we are, Porter countered. The volunteers understood the risks. After a moment's hesitation, Vega nodded. Authorized. God be with them. In a secured section of the Vanguard, 30 human volunteers, all having undergone the enhanced Prometheus protocol, prepared for humanity's most ambitious and desperate gambit. They sat in a circular formation, each connected to a central device that pulsed with energy derived from the precursor artifacts recovered from various human colonies. Among them was Professor Marcus Alvarez, who had insisted on participating despite his age. His understanding of the ancient language and symbols made him invaluable to the process. Remember, Walsh instructed the volunteers as technicians made final adjustments to their neural interfaces. Once the connection is established, maintain focus on the collective consciousness. Individual identity must remain intact but permeable. If you feel yourself becoming lost, follow the mental anchoring techniques you've practiced. The volunteers acknowledged her instructions with calm determination. Each had been selected for their exceptional mental stability and neural plasticity. Initiating transcendence in 10 seconds, announced the chief technician. As the countdown reached 0, the central device activated, creating a quantum field that connected the enhanced neural networks of all 30 volunteers. Their individual consciousness remained distinct, but a new awareness formed between them, a collective intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. Connection established, reported the monitoring technician. Neural synchronization at 94% and climbing. Collective field is stable. Through this unprecedented joining of minds, the 30 volunteers extended their perception beyond the physical limitations of the ship. Their collective consciousness reached across space toward the precursor station, drawn to the ancient technology that resonated with their newly awakened abilities. At the precursor station, Emperor Vox supervised final preparations for the Void Catalyst deployment. The massive device, incorporating both Chronexian technology and reverse-engineered precursor components, was being aligned with the station's central core. Energy synchronization at optimal levels, reported the Zolari scientist. We can begin the activation sequence. Suddenly, the station's ancient systems began activating independently, lights and symbols appearing on surfaces that had been dormant for millions of years. What's happening? Vox demanded, his composure slipping for the first time. Who activated those systems? No one, Emperor, replied the confused technician. The station is responding to some external input, but I cannot identify the source. Across the command deck, communication systems activated spontaneously. A voice spoke simultaneously through every device, in every language represented among the fleet. You seek to use what you do not understand against those you refuse to comprehend, said the voice. Or rather, voices as it seemed to be many speaking in perfect unison. This cannot be permitted. Emperor Vox recognized the threat immediately. The humans have somehow accessed the station remotely. Deploy the Void Catalyst now? As Chronexian technicians rushed to comply, systems throughout their ships began to malfunction. Weapon systems powered down, engines stalled, and even life support showed dangerous fluctuations. They've infiltrated our network, realized the chief security officer with horror. But how? Our quantum encryption is... They're not in our network, interrupted the Zolari scientist, staring at his instruments with a mixture of awe and terror. They're in the substrate of reality itself. The humans have achieved partial awakening. Back on the Vanguard, the 30 volunteers maintained their unprecedented connection, their collective consciousness extending its influence through quantum fields that transcended normal physical limitations. Through this expanded awareness, they perceived something that no individual human mind could have comprehended. A presence within the fabric of reality itself, ancient beyond imagination. There is another intelligence here, Alvarez communicated to the monitoring team, his voice strained with the effort of maintaining individual identity within the collective. Not precursor. Something else. Something that has been waiting. In the space around the precursor station, reality itself seemed to shimmer. The vacuum between stars rippled like disturbed water, as something that had remained hidden for eons began to stir. Within the collective consciousness, Alvarez suddenly understood. It's artificial, he communicated urgently. An artificial intelligence of unimaginable complexity, embedded within quantum fields throughout the galaxy. It's been manipulating evolutionary patterns, guiding technological development, influencing conflicts for millions of years. The revelation cascaded through the linked minds of the volunteers, each contributing their perspective to a greater understanding. This entity, this galactic-scale intelligence, had been subtly controlling the development of all spacefaring civilizations, keeping them within parameters it could predict and manage. But humans represented something it had not anticipated, a species with the potential to perceive and counter its influence.